Two little girls sat on the sofa, eating porridge while watching cartoons. They had no idea that just a few steps away in the bedroom, their mother was lying in a pool of blood. Police arrived at the scene. No signs of forced entry, no missing property. But there was a hidden enemy full of rage and hatred. For 16 years, the killer still lived nearby, passing by the house every day like an ordinary neighbor. How could someone escape justice right under everyone's noses for nearly 2 decades? The answer lies in a DNA sample and a fateful phone call from prison. Welcome to the Case Files, where we reopen shocking crime files, analyze every detail, uncover hidden truths, and bring justice back where it belongs. Today we're taking a deep dive into the infamous case of the neighbor who knew too much, the Cindy Lou Pavey murder case. This is the story of a 22-year-old mother, a brutal unsolved murder, and the 16-year persistent journey of detectives to find the killer who had been hiding right within the community. This case is not only proof of the power of modern forensic science, but also a warning about predators who lurk closer than we think. A peaceful town and a broken family. Murphysboro, a small, peaceful town in southern Illinois, was the ideal place for those seeking a simple, quiet life. It was here, in the early 1990s, that Cindy Lou Pavey and her husband, Corey, decided to move to build their nest and live near Cindy's biological sister, Jennifer. Cindy was a devoted mother who dedicated all her love to her 2 young daughters, Tiona, a baby born deaf, and Misty, the younger sister who had developmental delays. Jennifer, her close sister, regularly helped Cindy care for the 2 girls because of their special health conditions. However, while the mother-daughter bond grew stronger, Cindy's marriage gradually fell apart. After 4 years of ongoing arguments with Corey, Cindy decided to move out with her 2 children to a small house on Murphysboro Drive, just 2 blocks away from her sister's place. A new life began with fragile rays of hope. Not long after, she started dating a man named Tyler Green, someone with a less than stellar past, but Cindy still believed she could find true love. As Christmas 1991 was approaching, Cindy felt happiness was smiling at her once again. But it all turned to smoke in just one fateful night. Morning of December 21, 1991, a horrifying discovery. On the morning of December 22, 1991, Cindy's neighbor, Brianna Collins, called the police with a trembling, panicked voice. She had come to Cindy's house to take the 2 girls to school as usual, but no one came to open the door. The door was unlocked, so Brianna walked in. Inside, the 2 girls were sitting on the sofa, eating porridge and watching cartoons, completely unaware of what was happening. When Brianna walked into the bedroom, she discovered Cindy's body lying on the floor, her face covered in blood. She was wearing only a shirt, completely naked from the waist down. Clear signs of a brutal sexual assault. Police officer Jim Blur, the first to arrive at the scene, later recalled, he had never witnessed such a horrifying sight. It seemed the perpetrator didn't just want to kill Cindy, but wanted to destroy her. What made this case different? No signs of forced entry, no stolen property. What did that mean? The victim might have known her attacker. But who? And what was the motive? The investigation begins. The first suspects. Police Chief Tim Lear, who had over 20 years of investigative experience in Murphysboro, took on the case. He and the investigative team quickly got to work. The autopsy showed the victim had been struck forcefully on the head, with marks resembling shoe sole impressions, indicating this wasn't just a simple murder, but an act full of hatred and rage. Forensic experts discovered semen both inside and outside Cindy's body. A blood-stained nightshirt found under the body was also collected for DNA testing. This was a crucial clue. But in the early 1990s, DNA analysis technology was still very limited. First suspect, Corey, the ex-husband. Corey, Cindy's ex-husband, immediately became the prime suspect. He and Cindy had a history of domestic violence and prolonged arguments. Just a few days before Cindy was killed, they had met to sign divorce papers. Could he have been the perpetrator because he couldn't accept the separation? However, after thorough investigation, police discovered that footprints and shoe prints at the scene didn't match Corey's. A witness even confirmed seeing a man hitchhiking near Cindy's house the night of the murder, but after verification, it wasn't Corey. He was removed from the suspect list. Second suspect, Tyler Green, the current boyfriend. Tyler Green, Cindy's current boyfriend, had a criminal record for domestic violence, resisting law enforcement, and substance abuse. Cindy's relatives and friends all described their relationship as troubled. Cindy's younger sister even called Tyler a brute. But Tyler seemed to have prepared in advance. He proactively went to the police station and stated that he and Cindy were still in a relationship and had had sexual intercourse a few days before her death. This could explain why his DNA appeared inside her body. On the night of the murder, Tyler claimed he attended a relative's birthday party in East Frankfurt, over 50 kilometers from the scene. He called Cindy's house multiple times, but no one answered, making him jealous and suspect she was with someone else. Phone records confirmed his location away from the scene, and his shoe prints also didn't match the marks on the body. Tyler was temporarily removed from the suspect list. Third suspect, Arthur Thompson, Tyler's close friend. Arthur Thompson, Tyler Green's close friend, began to be suspected because he resembled Tyler, often went with him to Cindy's house, and had exhibited stalking behavior toward her. Even more suspicious was that Arthur had visited Cindy's house the day before she was killed. However, Arthur had solid alibi evidence, and his DNA didn't match the samples collected at the scene. He was also ruled out. Fourth suspect, Rick Renal, high school boyfriend. After many dead ends, police began to look at Rick Renal, Cindy's high school boyfriend. He had pursued her with obsessive behavior and once said, "She will be mine." A friend revealed that before being killed, Cindy had been stalked by someone who vandalized her windows. Rick also attended a party at Cindy's house right before the murder occurred. However, Rick denied any involvement and agreed to DNA testing. The results didn't match. Once again, the investigation hit a dead end. 16 years passed. The case became a cold case. After investigating all potential suspects without results, Cindy Lou Pavey's case was filed as unsolved. Cold case. The two children grew up not knowing who killed their mother. Jennifer, the close sister, had to bear the pain of losing a loved one without justice. Throughout those 16 years, the killer still lived freely, moving naturally on the familiar streets of Murphysboro. Perhaps he felt safe, thinking he had gotten away with it. But he didn't know that science was progressing day by day. Would justice ever come for Cindy? Or would this case remain a mystery forever? Year 2007. Breakthrough from modern DNA technology. In 2007, 16 years after the case, police decided to reopen the file and use modern DNA analysis technology, a quantum leap compared to what was available in the early 1990s. Forensic experts retested the DNA sample from the blood-stained nightgown collected at the scene. The results that came back shocked everyone. The DNA sample didn't belong to Tyler Green, didn't belong to anyone who had been tested before. It belonged to Quincy Hill, a neighbor who lived just over a block away from Cindy's house. Quincy Hill? Who was Quincy Hill? Quincy Hill, the hidden neighbor. Quincy Hill was a man with a criminal record for sexual assault, robbery, and burglary. He lived very close to Cindy's house, but no one ever thought of him as a suspect. When police summoned Quincy for questioning, He initially denied knowing Cindy, but later he admitted they had attended the same school and had met a few times. Quincy continuously changed his story, eventually confessing that he had sexual relations with Cindy 3 or 4 times. However, scientific evidence doesn't lie. Quincy's DNA was found inside Cindy's body, blood-stained and present on the nightgown, completely matching the time and location of the crime. This was not consensual sexual intercourse, as Quincy tried to claim. This was a deliberate sexual assault and murder. The fateful phone call, confession from prison. The final piece of evidence that sealed Quincy Hill's guilt came from a phone call between him and his brother in prison. In that conversation, Quincy said, "They got me." That was an indirect confession. Quincy knew he couldn't deny it anymore. DNA technology had exposed the truth he had tried to hide for 16 years. The final verdict: justice served. In 2008, after 17 years of evading justice, Quincy Hill was officially sentenced to 30 years in prison for first-degree murder of Cindy Lou Pavey. Although the verdict couldn't bring Cindy back, her family, especially Jennifer, her close sister, could finally close this painful chapter in their lives. The 2 children, though they couldn't have their mother back, at least knew who had taken her from them. Detective Tim Lear, who had spent 16 years not giving up on this case, finally completed his mission. He proved that even though justice comes late, it still comes. Cindy Lou Pavey's case is the clearest proof of the gaps in forensic technology of the past, and also the victory of persistence and science in the present. If it weren't for Detective Tim Lear's determination, if it weren't for the quantum leap in DNA technology, Quincy Hill would probably still be an ordinary neighbor, living just a few steps away from the victim's house. The crime happened in silence, no cries for help, no witnesses. But the traces remained, waiting for the day when the light of science would expose the truth. That very light brought justice to the 2 children, to a sister, and to the entire community that had been haunted for nearly 2 decades. This case reminds us that predators can be anyone, even the person living right next to you. But no matter how long they hide, no matter how much they think they've escaped, science and justice will never forget. If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Case Files. We will continue to bring you unsolved cases, shocking mysteries, and stories of justice you've never heard before. Remember, justice may be delayed, but it will never be denied.